Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How I Doubled, the show where we go inside businesses that have doubled their turnover in the last 2 years, break them down and find out the 5 key things that have contributed to their success. And this week, we go inside a local business, in fact, a mechanics workshop, Simply Subaru, located in Mona Vale on Sydney's northern beaches. Charlie Mashalany once worked for another automotive workshop, but decided it was time for him to get out on his own and start his very own. Now, for most people out there, they might be a little bit daunted by this task, or they might completely underestimate how much goes into running a business. And I know Charlie has an interesting story to tell. So Charlie Mashalany from Simply Subaru, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
And as I said in the introduction, it's quite a transition to go from employee to business owner. Mm-hmm. There's also a bit of a risk on your part.
Most definitely. There's always a gamble, obviously, in starting a business, especially from the type of business I came from, being obviously a mechanical workshop, working on cars. But yeah, I basically made the decision to move on and start my own, and that's exactly what I did.
So tell us, how did you get started with motor vehicles?
Well, I started my apprenticeship many years ago, just at a general workshop. Fell in love with working on cars. I had a passion for it. To basically fix something and to do it with my own 2 hands, I got a thrill out of doing that. And I'm still like that till today. So that was the stepping stone, I would say. And yeah, it's made me who I am today and where I am.
And did you go out looking for an opportunity in the industry, or did it find you?
I went out looking.
Yeah, and
I went out looking, yeah.
So that was literally just going out looking for a job?
Yep. So you were talking about when I first started my apprenticeship, or
Yeah.
I went out and I was literally door knocking businesses, trying to get myself into a workshop. Having started the apprenticeship, and obviously part of the requirements is to have a workshop where you can work in. So I had to do all that. Yep, in the beginning.
And at what stage did you decide, you know what, I want to go out at some point and I want to be in business for myself? How long into your apprenticeship or into your employment did that actually happen?
I was only a second-year apprentice when I had these thoughts. So it's I would say they're very early stages. I was doing a little bit of work from home, so friends and family were bringing their cars over to my house, and I was literally fixing them in my backyard, so to speak. It started from there, and then it just snowballed from there. I got a lot of friends referrals coming in, and started doing a lot of work at home, to the point where I thought I needed to basically start my own shop.
So let's fast forward the tape just for a second. The business today, turning over $360,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And when did you actually start the business?
Mid-2012.
So we're talking about 3 years ago, from starting a business to $360,000 a year. Mm-hmm. This is where the important part happens. It hasn't been all smooth sailing, has it?
No, it's not easy. It's not easy starting it. I've put the hard yards in. I think I was doing many hours to start with. Very early days, I started with a living social campaign, which Bowie from Business Blueprint recommended me to do. Started with that. That went really well. I was working about 18 hours a day for about 6 months straight. Didn't take any holidays. I was really, I would say I was pretty stressed out about the whole thing. It was a one-man band. I had to speak to the customers, order the parts for the cars, keep the customers updated. It was a pretty full-on role to play. Yeah.
Is that what you expected? What were you expecting when you decided to go out by yourself?
I wasn't too sure what to expect. All I know is I'm an honest guy, and I wanted to basically portray that to my customers. Our motto is bringing ethics back into mechanics. The industry I'm in, as you're probably aware, it doesn't have the best reputation. I'm trying to do something about that, and just be as straightforward as possible with people to gain their trust, really.
Okay, and obviously not talking about anyone in particular, just the industry in general, doesn't have the greatest reputation. Why do you think that is?
The industry is, I would say, is a very corrupt industry. I've worked in a couple of different workshops before, and I've seen how business is conducted, not in a very ethical way. For example, when I was a mechanic, we always got a job card where we had to basically fill out stuff that the car required. So as a mechanic, I'd fill out the job card and present it back to the service advisor, which would then speak to the customer. So let's say I typically wrote down two or three things that the car may have required. Anyway, I'd get the job card back with basically 17 or 18 things that the car basically needed when it, in actual fact, it didn't. So I was presented with this job card saying, yep, customer wants all of this done, and I wouldn't be happy about this, because I would know for a fact that half of the work didn't even need doing. And the sad thing is, people really, were struggling to pay for all this work. They would take out loans, they'd do overtime, all for work that wasn't even required to begin with. So that made me very, very agitated, and that even pushed me even more to start my own business.
So why do you think it is that people accept this as normal within the industry and continue working in environments like that?
A lot of people don't have a choice, really. I mean, a lot of mechanics aren't able to open up their own workshops, and they don't have any control over these things. So if they're getting their job cards back, and they're basically requested to do all that work, then they don't really have a say in it. They just have to do it. At the end of the week, they're going to get paid for their work. Some mechanics really don't like doing that. Other mechanics don't really get fazed by it. But the bottom line is the business owner. He's the one that's in control.
And what did you expect when you went into business by yourself? Mm-hmm. What were you expecting it to look like?
Well, I know I had a picture in my mind. I know that I wanted a clean, tidy workshop. I wanted to wow people. Customer service, I always needed it to be really high. I was basically, the reason I was doing all these hours, I was vacuuming all the cars, I was washing all the cars as part of the service, wasn't charging anything extra for that. It was really appreciated by a lot of customers, not by everyone, but by most people, and I got a thrill out of doing that. So it's always really, really good to get amazing feedback. It makes you feel good about yourself, and you just want to keep doing it.
But the reality of when you started the business, it kind of came crashing in when, like you said, you did the administration work, you did the bookkeeping, you had to do everything. Yes.
So that's the reason I was having to put in the hard yards. I couldn't afford at the beginning to get a mechanic to basically work for me at that point. Obviously, I just started up the new business, and I needed to get it running as best as possible on my own, and just basically apply everything that I learned over the last 10 years or so, working at different workshops, and not only being a mechanic, but also perceiving things from a customer's point of view, which is really, really important, because at the end of the day, all customers require different things, and you have to try and adapt to their personalities and have to listen to what they want.
And customers, obviously a big piece of this, how I doubled today. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that a little bit later, but we're going to start with point number 1, which we have of the 5 points, and that's kickstart marketing. And you touched on a minute ago a living social campaign, which is the same, if people are watching overseas, it's the same as a Groupon campaign. Mm-hmm. It's basically a mass voucher that goes out. Now, before we get on to that specifically, when you started in business, did you have a marketing strategy ready to go? Or did it happen once you started business, you went, gee, I probably should start thinking about marketing now?
I had zero marketing strategy before I started the business. I didn't even have not a plan in place, nothing. It was pretty much just fluked.
If you build it, they will come.
Pretty much, yeah.
You've already got friends and family coming. Why wouldn't everyone else want to come, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how long after you started did the reality of that set in?
About 6 months afterwards, I would say.
What was happening at that point?
Well, in the beginning, pretty much just the people that I knew would bring their cars to me. After that, I knew I was going to get to the point where obviously I needed to get a good kickstart behind this new business that I had opened. So that's when I was contemplating doing this amazing deal. It was pretty much about a $450 deal for $89. So I was losing money by doing it, but I did gain a lot of trustworthy customers and referrals from it.
Okay, so before we talk about that, who was at risk in this process? Was it just you? Were there other people that had a financial interest? Was there family that were invested, either emotionally or financially? Who had to lose in this proposition?
I was mainly at risk. Yeah. I mean, my friends and family were behind me on this, but in the end, I'm the one that invested the money in buying the actual real estate. But I did not buy a business. I started the business from scratch. So I took the plunge and did it, basically.
And if it fell apart, what would have the downside looked like? Because, and the reason I ask is because people are watching and maybe they're contemplating on making that jump, and they want to know, how much do I have to risk in order to go into business? Now, it's not always the same for everyone, but I think it would be valuable to find out, what was your downside if this didn't work?
Sure. Well, the fact that I bought the real estate was I think a good thing, because I did think about that when I first started. So my perception was, look, I do have a lot to risk, but the fact that I'm not tied into a lease is probably a good thing. If the business wasn't to take off, I could, hopefully just rent the place out. The costs I would have already incurred would have been putting up, the workshop hoists and getting all the tools, which was, a good $100,000.
Okay, so not massive in the scheme of things, but certainly for an individual, this is going to set you back in your life plans.
Yes, yeah, but it was well worth taking the risk.
Okay, so you weighed up that risk versus reward and you thought, was there ever a time when you went, gee, do I really want to take this risk? Or was it always a case of the other side was kind of a heavier balance than the risk?
Yeah, but I was always ready to take the risk and move out on my own. I was always ready to do that and just basically do what it took to make it happen.
Beautiful. So we're 6 months in, family and friends, all their cars are running beautifully, and then you decide.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.